Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Thursday and we've got to talk about the latest Scream rumors because there are some things to talk about. So let's jump right into it. Alright, so some of the latest Scream rumors that we're getting have to deal with a possible spin-off series and even information on some of the cast, namely Sidney's daughter. So we'll start with the Sidney's daughter thing because that's kind of really interesting. According to viewer Anon, it is actually Tatum. Sidney's daughter is supposed to be named Tatum, and I think that's really great. Viewer Anon has been right in the past on a lot of different things, so kind of still take it with a grain of salt because it is a rumor. But if this is true, this is exciting because it tells us that Sidney still thinks about her friends and probably still thinks about Dewey too. The fact that she would name her daughter after his sister kind of tells you why possibly that Dewey kept in contact with her all those years. I wouldn't be surprised to learn that he and Gel were her godparents or something. I wouldn't be surprised to hear that at all. And with Dewey now dead, Gel being the only existing godparent left, sure, that could be interesting. And I like the idea of her kind of remembering the past by naming her daughter after her closest friend who didn't make it out of the original movie. Because Tatum was actually one of the coolest characters. And that means that this character's probably going to be a little brave. This character's probably going to be a little bit rebellious. And that kind of fits with the character of Tatum. The character of Tatum was sort of girly, but she was still really rebellious at the same time. Now, this actually isn't too far out of the realm of possibility because a casting call had gone out for a teenage girl of about 17 with some overprotective parents who was sort of a tomboy-esque girl. But at the same time, she knew that rebelling against her parents was not really the way to go because deep down she knew that they were trying to protect her from the dangers in the world. This sounds a lot like Sidney, and it sounds a lot like that could have been her daughter. So this doesn't really surprise me at all to know that Tatum is the name of the daughter. But then again, keep in mind this is still just a rumor, so you still have to take it with a grain of salt, even though viewer Anon has been right about things in the past. Now that brings us to our second topic, and our second topic is Publication Weekly announced an untitled Scream spinoff is in the works. Now, Publication Weekly is good for announcing things that are going to happen. They are good about it because they are an industry insider. They are sort of that place. Most of the time, if you're reading it in Publication Weekly, it is something that has been confirmed. And so we know that this is in the works. This is something that they are going to be doing. And what exactly is this Scream spinoff? Well, we've talked about this one in the past a little bit. It's an idea that's been floating around for a little while. And that is that the spinoff will revolve around Special Agent Kirby Reed. That's right, and the description actually reads, status development. That producer is Kevin Williamson, a spin-off of the Scream franchise centering on Hayden Panettiere's character Special Agent Kirby Reed, the sole teenage survivor of the second Woodsboro murders, known as the Woodsboro Massacre Remake, the highest body count and most violent massacre of all Ghostface killing sprees. Now, I think that's very interesting because we had been talking about that. We have been saying that that could be a possibility. And now we kind of get confirmation. And it says that the film centers on her with Kevin Williamson being attached as producer. So that's something that's very exciting to think about because now we at least know that there is something going on there. And I think that's definitely an interesting way to go with it. Kirby doesn't necessarily need to fit into the Scream movies, but to have her in some sort of capacity, still be involved in the franchise is cool. I have always been a really big fan of Kirby. It's one of those things where, should they have brought her back in the movie, they kind of needed to bring her back into that movie if they were even thinking about going anywhere with the character. But having her involved in Scream 7 doesn't really seem like it fits, because we know that in Scream 7, it's going to be focusing on Sidney and Gal, and Kirby doesn't really fit into that. So sure, they could squeeze her in somehow into the script, and we've talked about that as a possibility. But I've always kind of had a problem with where exactly they put her into this, because looking at it logically, if you're centered around Gel and Sidney, unless you make that assumption that she's been a part of Sidney's life somehow, or that she's been a part of Gel's, then there's not really a spot for Kirby in the series. There's not really a spot for Kirby in this movie. And the problem with making her a friend of Gel's is that Gel is sort of that sidekick character. Sure, she is a character that is a main, and she always has a big part. Sure, you could have her have friends of her own, but every time you put a character in there to make it a friend of a side character, you are taking away from some of the people that are going to be in the main cast, and you can't really do that. You have to kind of look at, like, every character needs to matter. Every character definitely needs to matter, and doing a friend of a friend is something that kind of just would regulate her to almost a background character and would feel like a waste for Kirby fans. I don't think that Kirby fans would be as excited about Kirby being in the movie if she was wasted in the movie. A lot of fans thought she was wasted in Scream 6 for the lack of story that she got. And in reality, she was a big part of the plot. She just wasn't as big a part of the plot as several of her fans wanted her to be. The thing about this as a rumor, it is something to take with a little bit more than a grain of salt because of where it comes from, but it's also kind of listing this as a feature film. And with this being a feature film spinoff, you have big shoes to fill, because now, is this going to be a spinoff of the Scream franchise that will include Ghostface, or is this going to be a Scream spinoff where she's hunting down other killers? Because honestly, I think doing it where she's hunting down other killers has potential. However, it also kind of needs explaining. Because if you don't at least have her acknowledge that she was doing this for a while and maybe kind of stopped it or whatever, then it's not going to work. Or if this is something that's running in the background of the movie where we know she's doing this, then yes, it could work as a spin-off movie, and then have other spin-off movies where she's chasing down other killers, sure, but I think that this really does work more as a TV series, and I think even though they're calling it a feature film, that's kind of what they're calling it now. I don't think that's necessarily what it will end up being if we're looking at it logically, because in order for this to be a feature film, it's definitely going to have to be worth it. And people want more of the character of Kirby Reed. It's just, do we want more of her chasing down other killers, or do you want more of her chasing down Ghostface? I think this could work to their advantage, taking it in the direction of it being other Ghostface killers, only for the reason that, like I've said in the past, not all of these Scream movies are going to revolve around Sidney forever. I don't know. I'm kind of torn. On one level, I love having Sidney Prescott as the main lead. But by the same token, I don't want to see her go the way of Laurie Strode, because Jamie Lee Curtis ended up resenting the series after a while. And then well, to be fair, she only did the first two movies and then came back to kill Michael Myers. And when that didn't work, you know the rest of the story. She ended up coming back to kill him again and again and again. And all the time she was told she could kill him and she wasn't going to be able to kill him. I don't want to see Sidney Prescott be that person who thinks she's ending the ghost-faced reign of terror for the last time, only to have it pop up and her to be in her 70s having to face down the ghost face killer once again. Now that may be an interesting premise down the road, but I don't want to see it go that route necessarily. And I don't think that logically Neve Campbell is going to continue to do these films forever. So we are looking at other possibilities here. We're looking at other ways that this can go forward, and one such way would be if, like we've talked about before, you had a movie centered around Kirby. And sure, we've talked about possibly being a TV series, but it could also work as a series of movies. It could work that she would have to face a different ghost face killer each time. Maybe she is that cop who survives or the cop who investigates, taking on kind of that background role and not necessarily having to be involved in a lot of the killings that are happening. Now, it's different if you put her in a TV series because then you can have her be the main character. But if you put her in a movie as the main character, with her being the glue that holds it together, then I think we might run into a problem where she can't survive forever. So then what happens? Do we spin off from another character, another place? That's kind of where we're at with the Scream franchise right now. If the Sidney Prescott stuff ends up being the last of Neve Campbell's stuff, and we get Hayden Panettiere coming in and playing Kirby Reed again, that's going to be a lot of fun, but that can only last so long too if she is at the center of the movie itself. If she's sort of regulated to the background just a little bit and investigator of the whole thing and kind of that glue that holds it together, then I could see that working. I could see them doing that and making that last as a movie series. It would kind of be like something we've seen in other things do. Like the Fugitive TV series ended up being a movie with Tommy Lee Jones. He then came back to play the same character in another movie. So it could be kind of like that here. We could see her come back and play this character, and it wouldn't always have to be the Scream franchise, but I think a lot of it should be, or all of it should be. I think any other type of killer story with her is going to leave fans wanting it to be Ghostface. If this is true, where do they go with it? That's where I'm going to leave it off to you guys. Do you think there could be any truth to Sidney naming her child Tatum? And what do you think about that? What do you think are the odds that Tatum will meet the same fate or a similar fate to her own best friend? What do you think about the possibility of a Kirby spinoff movie, or would you rather it be an actual series? And how do you think that goes? Do you see her as the glue that holds that series of movies together, or do you want her as the main character in her own franchise or her own TV series at that? As always, we want to hear from you guys, so make sure you're leaving us that comment in the comment box below, letting us know what you think. Don't forget to share this video with all of your friends. They're definitely going to want to be a part of this conversation. Make sure that you hit that like button. It's free, it helps the channel, and we really do appreciate it. Then Miko says we need more subscribers, and look at this face. You don't want to disappoint Miko, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button while you're down there. Hit that notification bell as well, so you don't miss a single video we do. Then friends, at the end of the day, I know it, you know it, and Miko knows it. Fandom is family.